Jim, I'm off to buy some provisions for our grand adventure. Why don't you explore around the docks for a while? But for goodness sake, don't get into any trouble. I'll meet you at the mooring flag for our ship, the RLS Legacy.
The good doctor told us not to get into any trouble, but this is a 3D platformer, so we kinda have to get in trouble. That's just how this goes. So anyway, we already have 200 doubloons, which means we have all the doubloons we need for the rest of the game. We don't need to collect anymore for any reason. 200 is all we need. So these hammer enemies just kinda stand there and look dumb while you shoot your laser pistol at them. They're not threatening at all. I don't think I've ever seen them actually attack. There's some different hammer enemies later that are a lot better, though. I question the necessity of putting a checkpoint there because nothing really happened yet. Here's a mechanic that we haven't seen before, and we don't actually have a walkie-talkie to explain it to us, but it's pretty self-explanatory. We just jump up onto this, and he grabs it. And then we can ride it to wherever it takes us. Climbing from the ceiling is actually something that a lot of Disney games let you do. Another one that comes to mind is Atlantis. For some reason, even though the main character in Atlantis is super scrawny and does not have the upper muscle strength for that.
Can you help me, young man? I need to buy some rat traps. But if I leave here, then the space rats will eat all of my fruit. Can you guard my stall for me?
No problem. I'll help you.
3, 2, 1.
So I know the writing standards and the general quality standards for this game aren't super high or anything, but space rats? You know, in a universe like Treasure Planet where there's interstellar travel, outer space doesn't really mean anything anymore. Like the whole concept of Treasure Planet is that traveling outer space is just like traveling the seas now, you know? You travel it in giant ships like they traveled the seas. That's the whole point. So the idea of space rats, the idea that you'd call something space rats, is just completely absurd. You might as well just call them rats. That would be a lot less confusing than calling them space rats. Anyway, this minigame is super easy. The rats are really slow, and even after they get to the fruit, they have to walk all the way back with it. So you have plenty of time to zap them. I guess we're just okay with murdering all these rats. These rats are giant, though, by the way. And they look really terrifying. They're huge. I would not want to be anywhere near these in real life. They're scary. I feel like the minigame goes on a little long, though. Especially because it's so easy.
Oh, you're really handy with that laser. Take this, and my thanks for guarding my stall so well.
So that's one of the 3 pirate treasures we're going to be getting in this level. And the other one's actually one of the other ones is actually really close by, just in this next room. I'm not going to explain enemy types we've already seen before, because you know how they work. But yeah, the next pirate treasure is actually just in this room. We gotta climb this pole and then use the zipline, and the pirate treasure is just right there. I mean, there's a crack in the wall we gotta blast first. But it's still really weird that the 2 pirate treasures were so close together. About the minigames, by the way, you can replay them if you want, but I'm not sure why you'd want to do that, because you don't get anything for it. Now we're on top of the market. It's kind of a pathetic market, though, because there was only one guy selling fruit and nothing else, but now we're on top of the market, and there are falling platforms, but they take a really long time to fall, and all the jumps are straight, so it's not hard at all. If the jumps were more diagonal or something, I would understand it being harder, but the controls in this game aren't good enough for a bunch of diagonal jumping, so it's probably for the best. And now we come up on another checkpoint, which actually makes sense, because stuff happened in the level at this point, even though we're not likely to have lost. So we need 2 power diodes to open this door, and the power diodes are guarded by these useless guys with hammers who don't do nothing. They're just on either side of the steps, and it's really easy to get to them. I'm not sure what the idea was with these hammer enemies. They're just so easy to fight. But anyway, we insert the power diodes just by walking into the holes, like with the other power diode in the first level. In the next room, there's another extra life for us. we're gonna have a lot of extra lives by the end of the game. I like that guy running around with a spear. It's so incredibly unlikely that he'll ever hurt you because you have your laser pistol. But I guess if for some reason you ever tried to use your sword on him, I guess that's what that enemy's for. Even though you'd never try to use your sword, you'd always try to use the laser pistol first because it has longer range. At least that's what I always do. I always use the laser pistol unless I have to use my sword for like these guys. So even though this is presumably supposed to be a 3D platformer, a bunch of the 3D platforming is really easy, like super simple. Like this. This is, it would be kind of insulting for me to explain this platforming to you, right? But this is almost as difficult as the platforming gets. There's a platforming challenge in the third world that's harder than this, but that's almost as bad as it gets, is what we did just there. It's kind of sad, especially for a game where you're supposed to be jumping a bunch. But like I said, it's more of a minigame collection than a 3D platformer. You just 3D platform between the minigames. And, I don't know, this game is easily the one with, the most in it. It's really long, and it looks the best, it has the most variety in it. And, when I was streaming this level, streaming this game for a friend, because I did play this game multiple times, and a couple times I did private streams. When I was streaming this game for a friend, they said this level looked like a Hook level. Like it was the level that was meant to get people into the game. And yeah, if I were gonna try to advertise this game, I'd probably show this level because it has the most jumping and variety in it. But it goes downhill really fast from this level. I know that may sound really depressing because the game isn't exactly super exciting so far, but yeah, it goes downhill super fast from this world. It just becomes pretty much all minigames from here. Though I guess, you know, there are the boss fights to account for, and the boss fights are kinda cool in concept. They don't telegraph their attacks good enough sometimes, but they're really cool in concept, and they have a central theme around them. It's a shame there's only 2 of them, though. Okay, so in this area, we're gonna encounter our final pirate oh, here's that new hammer guy I was talking about. He actually attacks and sends out a shockwave we need to jump over, but here's our last pirate treasure.
Hey, laddie! I have a shipment of fruit that I need to unload for market, but some of it's spoiled. If you help me fill up a few barrels, I'll pay you what I can. Will you help me unload?
No problem. I'll help you.
3, 2, 1.
So I have problems with this minigame. Not mechanically, but conceptually. So the idea is that we need to catch the red and yellow fruit and avoid the green fruit because it's rotten. But why is this how they're unloading the fruit? Why can't they just move the ship closer and, you know, let me pick out the fruit that's good instead of throwing it at me? This is not how this works. If you're unloading fruit, you don't throw it down at a guy to catch it. You just, you know, you hand him the fruit. This is complete nonsense. Like I said, I know the standards for writing and general quality aren't super high, but this is pushing it. It works fine as a minigame, you know, you've probably seen minigames like this before. One that comes to mind is in Jak and Daxter when you're catching fish, except that one actually makes sense. Unlike this, which is just nonsense. Why did they even throw the rotten fruit? Why don't they just throw the good fruit? This game's not good for asking questions. You're not supposed to ask questions about this game. But anyway, the minigame works. There's nothing super wrong with it. If you catch one of the rotten fruit, you have to start over, but it's really easy to avoid it. The only thing that I would warn you about is that Jim moving the bucket is on a very slight delay. You can change directions really quickly, but you gotta wait a small bit for your input to register is all.
Thank you, lad. I haven't got a lot, but here's some treasure I found on my last voyage out.
So, we could actually leave the level right now because we got all we need. There's no reason for us to keep going. There's no more pirate treasure that we want past this point. But we're gonna keep going anyway because there's more 3D platforming. There's actually a lot more 3D platforming, but again, there's no more pirate treasure that we want. We already got all the pirate treasure we need in this level. And the 3D platforming doesn't exactly inspire. It doesn't look super good, and it's not fun. But I figure I might as well show it, because this is the level with the most 3D platforming and the most variety in it. It's the best level in the game, probably. So it'd be a shame not to show it, even if the stuff on display isn't good. I know, you know, this game's kind of sad. Because, Disney's quality standards have never been super great or anything. But, like I already mentioned, there's a bunch of better Disney 3D platformers available on the PS1 and 64, you know, around this generation. There are a bunch of better ones. They're not masterpieces or anything, but, you know, they're fun, and they got some good design in them. But I don't know who this game's for. It'd be really hard to recommend it to anybody. Because, recently I've been playing Toy Story 2, which came out around this time, and it's not super great. It definitely has a bunch of problems. But it's clear that there were design principles in place, and that the development team was really trying to make something good. You know, not just good for a licensed game, but something actually good to play. But I'm really not sure who this game's supposed to be for. Because, I don't know, maybe if you're really, really young, and this is your first introduction to 3D platformers, but, it just, I don't know, it just feels kind of weird. Even when a game's not super remarkable, or there's a bunch of bad in it that outweighs the good, usually I can point to something about it that's special about it, or where it tried to do something unique, even if it didn't succeed at it. But I can't think of anything this game does that's really outstanding, or even anything it tried to do that would have been outstanding if it worked or anything like that. Like, the most outstanding part of the game is the solar surfer sections, where you're basically just playing a racing minigame. Those work well and they're fun, but it's nothing that hasn't been done before, and it's been done better by other racing games, so... I mean, I can't give it credit for being a minigame collection either, because those already exist. Maybe minigame collection plus 3D platformer hasn't been done before, but I guess that really depends on the ratio that you consider, because there are a whole bunch of 3D platformers with minigames in them, you know? So I can't think of anything about this game that's special in any way, or anything it tried to do that's worth talking about. But the main reason I wanted to share it is just because it's so weird. It's just, hard to believe this actually exists, you know? Especially with the PS2 version out there, which is way better and is inspired by Jak and Daxter directly. And it's actually good and tries to do some unique and fun things, and this is just, I mean, until recently, it pretty much didn't even get any recognition. It was like, you know, I guess this game exists, but nobody cared about it.
Hold it, son! Only guild members and visitors with inspection papers get in. However, I could arrange a temporary guild membership for, say, 200 doubloons.
Here's my 200 doubloons for the, temporary guild membership.
Greetings, temporary guild member, and welcome to the warehouse.
So that was the final time we need to use doubloons in the game. There's no reason to collect anymore after this. I guess unless you just really like seeing the number go up, which is fine, but for most people there's no reason to collect doubloons after that point, because that's the last time you gotta use them. And right over here, we can finally end the level, but we could have exited it at any time we wanted.
Well, hello, Jim. Shall we venture on board the Legacy? Or would you like to explore the docks a while longer?
So this is the boss battle against Scroop, and this isn't where Jim fought Scroop in the film. I mean, I'm sure you could really call it a fight in the film, but still, this isn't where he fought Scroop. The idea behind this first phase of the fight is that Scroop will send barrels hurling at us, and sometimes the barrel will bust open, and a grenade will pop out, and then we gotta throw the grenade at him. The aiming for the grenade is tied directly to our movement. The reticle isn't separate from our walking, but you can time it so that way Scroop will jump into the grenade, which actually feels really satisfying, because there's a slight delay on the throw, it's not instantaneous. You can time it so he'll jump into it, and that's fun. Then he moves to the second phase where he grabs the crate and shoots a constant laser across the floor. And this time crates just fall from the sky for no reason, but the idea is to break the spindles of rope behind him, and if you break all three, then his crate will break. I'm not sure how that works, but it does. This phase is easily the easiest one. Now after that is the hardest phase, where he throws crates directly at you, and they come at you fast. You want to be as far away from him as you can to give you plenty of time to jump, and they also let out a little shockwave. After he throws 3 crates, he comes down to jump on you himself, and then you can zap him with your laser pistol. He always jumps where you were standing when he leaps, so it's real easy to get out of his way. It's a little harder to shoot him though, because he's only open for a little bit. It's not a hard fight or anything. The hardest thing about it is how quickly he throws the crates at you during the last phase. That really caught me off guard the first time. But the theme with both of the bosses in this game is that the bosses are far away on a platform, basically throwing stuff at you. That's the theme of both boss battles. And then after the boss comes another race segment. I probably would have put the race before the boss if I were doing it, but it's not like this game has excellent pacing or cares about fidelity with the film anyway, cause that fight with Scroop definitely didn't happen here. That was way later in the movie. But this race is actually the hardest one. It's the one where it's easiest to run out of time. And there's a lot of really sharp turns where you have to slow down a bit to take them, or at least take them a lot earlier than you'd think you would. That's not a bad thing though, it's just an unprecedented amount of challenge for the game, I guess, cause the bar for challenge in the game isn't super high. I mean, anybody could probably finish this racing segment. It's just trying to finish it and get all 3 pirate treasures. That's the challenge. Because like I said, there are some turns that are really hard to make, and sometimes you gotta sacrifice some of the clocks in order to go faster. So I think I said it before, but this is really the only race where the placement of the clocks or the addition of the clocks is even important. Because in all the other races, it's way too easy to get clocks. But in this one, the clocks are kinda hard to get, and sometimes you gotta skip them if you want to go faster. So the design behind the clocks is actually kinda easy to see here, but not in the rest of the game. This is also the only race with these boost orbs. They make us go faster and that's all they do. They don't change the steering too much. You might have to get used to it the first couple of times, but the corners that you take after you use the boost orbs, they have rails, so you're not going to go flying off the course or anything when you use them. And you do want to use them, you don't want to skip them, because, I don't know, I wouldn't say this is the strictest timing out of all the races, but you still want to go as fast as possible if you want to get all 3 pirate treasures from the races. And I do, because the races are the best part of the game for me. Even though I really like 3D platforming, I think the races are the best part of the game. The controls are nice, and the track layouts aren't super inspired, but they get better as the game goes on. I think Magenta Studios should try and make a racing or driving game. But I don't know if they're still around. Their most recent game was Invisibles: The Lost Kingdom, and that was like 2012, so I don't know if they're even around anymore, but they should try making a racing or driving game.